Good to go.
Awesome. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest installment in Reach the World's Professional Development Series. My name is Chris Ahern. I am Director of Partnerships for Reach the World, and we have a few other guests with us today. Now, before we get started, there are a couple of things that I want to share with all of you as educators, that is informal and formal educators, parents alike, that number one, you are leaders in the world of virtual learning. And that we at Reach the World are here for you and will continue to support you however we can. But please visit athome.reachtheworld.org. That is athome.reachtheworld.org for the most up-to-date information, including accessing this and future professional development sessions. So we are really lucky to have a friend of ours, a friend of Reach the World, and a really amazing educator named Lizzie Rosenberger, who will be sharing some of the things that she's been doing today. So these are some of the things that she will be speaking about, talking about her school and curriculum, the consistency and community, some of the content, how she prepares for video calls, as well as some resources. In addition to myself and Lizzie, we also have Tim Jacob, who's the director of the Traveler program. So if anyone is watching on the live stream, please feel free to add any questions or comments in the chat. You can also email us any questions or comments. We will be able to share you that email address at the end of our presentation. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Lizzie Rosenberger. So Lizzie, take it away.
Thank you, Chris. It's so great to be here with you all. I'm thrilled to be back with Reach the World. So today, just to give you a little bit of background as to who I am, this is my 12th year in education. I currently teach at a school called Buckingham Browne Nichols, which is in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's a pre-K through 12th grade private school. I do 1st and 4th grade science, as well as I am an interdisciplinary facilitator. I also am a National Geographic certified educator, a NASA Airborne Astronomy Ambassador. And then for my informal background in education, I lead National Geographic student expeditions in the summers. I also have worked with the Explorers Club and with Reach the World, bringing students to Antarctica, among other places, and virtually, of course. And I also was a educator at the Central Park Zoo and for the School for Field Studies in the middle of the rainforest in Australia. So my range of education kind of goes from rainforests and reefs all the way into the classroom. So we can head to the next. My school is, like I said, a pre-K through 12th grade private school, and we are on 3 separate campuses. Our curriculum is for science, it's very hands-on and project-based. This picture is a picture of my students building kits to learn about renewable energies. And when I say it's project-based learning, it really is an interdisciplinary project-based curriculum. So we study energy and science in 4th grade, and that is something we look at through a lens of science, a lens of social studies, the lens of art, and they even do persuasive writing with it and learn research skills. So it's really, really connected through their entire day. And that's the same for my 1st graders as well. You can see in the background of that picture, there's some plants growing. We've been growing plants from the fall throughout the winter and the spring, and the plants are actually at home with me right now. And the last thing is our school is also very community focused and community based. So our community is really important to us. And that's inclusive of our classroom community, our campus community, as well as the community around us and our families. So when thinking about moving to remote learning, we've had to think about all of those pieces. So one of the biggest things that I've been taking away from this remote experience, and this is, it's new to all of us educators, but the biggest thing that I've noticed is consistency and community. So for our students, we rolled out, we had the fortune, I guess it's the fortunate, a nice thing of having 2 weeks of spring break right when schools were beginning to shut down. So we had a few weeks to kind of gather our ideas and plan and see what some other schools were doing first. And from that, we came up with a plan for the first 2 weeks of online learning, which was pretty much just a morning meeting and then work for students to do on their own. After our first 2 weeks, we've now transitioned into a more kind of live sessions as well as work to do on their own kind of learning day. So we're not trying to by any means simulate the normal school day because that's impossible. But we are trying to have them connect with teachers a little bit more regularly, as well as have time for their own work. So they have a daily schedule. Their schedule is the same every day for the whole week, and they can see their whole schedule at a week's glance. And the only thing that changes is their special. So they'll have morning meeting the same time every day. They have a break the same time. Then they go in and have math the same time every day, and then a break. And then they have reading or writing, and then a break. And then they have lunch, and then they have a special. And the special changes each day of the week. With something that we've done, we're trying to figure out how to promote community online. So one of the things we've started this week is a live lunch. So we noticed that the students were really enjoying seeing each other on Zoom, and they were struggling because they wanted to share stories about what's happening with them, what TV show did they watch, what bird did they see, what meals are they having. They just want to talk with their friends. And so and that's hard to do when you're trying to learn how to read and write or learn about the skeleton. So we decided to do live lunches for our students, where it's just a space for them to come. They can eat lunch. They don't have to eat lunch, but it's just a space for them to talk with each other. A few other things we've been doing, our specialist teachers, so our students go to science, art, music, PE, and foreign language on their own. Those are our special classes. So those teachers, since we don't see the kids every single day, we've been doing enrichment activities that are optional for students. So we found that some parents and some families are, they're doing great with the amount of work the teacher is giving, and then they're just dying for more work. And then we found also that some parents and families and students are just making it by and just barely getting done what we have assigned for the day. So these are completely optional, and they end up being fun things. So we have some Lego challenge, we have doing observations out your windows. We have different music classes where students dance along with music from around the world. So they're really fun for the kids, and they don't do them all. They can decide what they want, but they are enjoying it. And then we do have a way, we've used Padlet quite a bit for students to post what they're doing. We also have our head of school who's trying to connect and unite the community across our 3 campuses. And so every day she posts a heads challenge, and it is absolutely anything and everything. One day it was play a board game with a family member. Another day it was bake something. One day it was do the dishes after dinner for your parents. That was a popular one the parents enjoyed. But trying to kind of have them do something, just something that's kind and something that's a little bit different. And then they randomly pick a winner from students who submit a photo, and then they get a special, they can either get a book or an ice cream voucher to use when they would like. And then we're also thinking about some of our community days that we have in the spring. We have a lot of celebrations in the spring. The one coming up next week is Earth Day. We usually have an eco bash, and that is obviously canceled, unfortunately, but we're moving it online. So we've spent some time curating some resources for the students so that they can still celebrate Earth Day virtually. So we've been doing a bunch of read alouds. We've been recording ourselves reading books for the students that have to do with Earth Day. We also have this picture that's called Nature Walks Around the World. And this is a Padlet that we've created where different people that we know around the world are taking video of their nature walks and sending it to us, so the students can still have an opportunity to be outside and see what spring looks like in all different parts of the world. Or I guess it's fall if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. But and we're trying to kind of foster community as best we can. And then with the nature walks around the world, that's one place for them to view it. And then we also have a BB&N nature walks and small moment stories where the students can then become inspired by this and go on their own nature walk to record and share with the community, or they can think about a small moment they had with nature or an animal or a plant some point in the past and write a story about that and submit it for our community to see. So the next piece, as an educator, you always think about content and what are my students learning and what are the standards that we're hitting and are they actually understanding what we're teaching them? So the biggest thing that we talk about at our school is that we're absolutely not going to be able to cover the amount of content that we can cover in the classroom online, and that's okay. The main thing is that our students are healthy and that they're safe and that they're feeling supported. That's our number one. And then all of kind of the content and learning comes after that, because if they're not feeling safe and supported and healthy, then there's no way they're going to learn. So we're aware that the content isn't going to be as much, which is okay. So as a teacher, it's just kind of, changing a little bit of what you had planned for the spring. The other thing that we've noticed, I've noticed in particular with my younger students, the first graders, is their attention spans. So sitting on a Zoom call for, 45 minutes, which is how long my classes usually are, is just not possible for a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. So we've shortened some of our live classes to be 30 minutes. And within those 30 minutes, we've been given the option, you can do a quick mini lesson and have that be 10 minutes and then have the kids do an activity, and you can just sit there on Zoom watching them do the activity, or you can send them off to do it and then come back. We realize that it's really what the students need and what's best for them. So it's also kind of rethinking all of those lessons in a different creative way. And that brings me to screen time. As a science teacher and having a hands-on curriculum, I really like the kids to do things and be active with their hands. And so I am constantly thinking right now, how do I get my kids away from the screen? So yes, they see me live for half an hour once a week, but when they're actually doing their science work, what can I do to get them so that they're not just going to a website to look up bones to learn the skeletal system? So this is an example. I had them just use whatever is around your house to recreate the skeletal system and make sure that you label it. Some of the labels are hard to see on them, but when you zoom in really close, when they submit it in Google Classroom, you can see that they are labeling them correctly and that they're being very creative with the materials that they have at home. And this was one that I kind of thought of it as just, one activity, and a lot of the students have responded, this was such a fun project. So I think that they put a little bit more time into it than I was anticipating, but I think they did have fun doing it because it was something that was a little bit more active. And I think that also brings me to this last point here, the classwork versus homework. I think what I've been noticing this past week is that what you can do in a live class with a student online is different from what you can do in the classroom. And if I see my students twice a week for 45 minutes in real life, I'm not giving them homework, and that's not an expectation. And the 4th graders in general at our school, it's not necessarily, they don't get a ton of homework a week. But now that they're at home, everything is homework in their minds. So when you give them an assignment, if you are on the screen for 5 minutes with them, or they're doing an asynchronous or a synchronous lesson, either one, they're thinking that that's it, that there's not this extra piece. So it's trying to kind of rethink as an educator and a teacher for them, how much work am I actually asking of them? Am I now having them do projects and assignments that are, spanning an entire week when we haven't really yet introduced to them how you have time management for a week-long project? So kind of rethinking some of those, I think, is really important right now in that balance of what is kind of the classwork, the homework, and it really is all homework, and how much time they might be devoting to it.
I just had a quick question about that. When we had our last teacher feature with Miss Mesk, who's a public school elementary teacher in Brooklyn, New York, she mentioned about how one thing that she has been doing as she's been transitioning to at home and distance learning has been really providing those asynchronous opportunities through and really trying to lean into the concept of multiple modalities. So really allowing students to find ways that they're demonstrating mastery of a particular concept or lesson objective. Have you done anything? I think first of all, I love the examples of the skeleton that you have, but have you been looking at that multiple modalities as a way to further encourage students to be thinking about that homework concept?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been trying to think of different ways. We know that some of them are typing, some of them prefer writing. So we have lots of options for students to just send in pictures of the work that they're doing. Some of them are building things, some want to draw, some want to talk it out. So we do have each week, we also have office hours with our students, and we have small group meetings with them as well as individual one-on-one meetings. And that we are thinking definitely about the different modalities they can use. We're also very aware of what tech they're used to. So if students are comfortable with and used to recording videos of themselves, then excellent, we'll ask them to do it. If it's a new technology they're not yet used to, then we're not going to introduce it yet, just because we don't want to give them too much to hold on to and too much to figure out as things are changing. And a great example is Flipgrid. I was just started using Flipgrid with my first graders, which is a wonderful app where you can record a video and send it to someone else, and then they can watch it and record a video back to you. So I kind of like to think of it as like FaceTime messages. So you can leave a message for someone. And it's something that I would love to do with the first graders, but I know that we're not quite there yet with them being able to monitor themselves on how to use the app, at which point then it's really asking their parents or their grownups who are home with them to help them with the app. And that's not an expectation I can have yet. It might be in 3 weeks we might be able to do it, but as we're rolling things out, we're trying to be pretty intentional about moving a little bit slowly with some of these things to allow time for everyone to adapt. So this one is preparing for a video conference, a video call. I think this one is an important one for teachers. It's totally different to be sitting in front of a screen than it is to be sitting in front of your classroom. So for this one, I just have a few tips and tricks. Some of them I did learn at Reach the World. The lighting and the seating of where you are is super important. So you want your students to be able to see you, and you also want to be able to model for your students how you would like them to sit and how you would like them to be lit, because it's hard when you have a student and you can't see their face. So I think the lighting and seating is just one thing to be aware of. Having any of your notes and your materials is obviously, you'd have those for class, and it's just as important when you're teaching with the video conference. And also having all of those up on your screen ahead of time. So I find that when you go to share your screen with students, if that's a feature that you're doing, making sure that everything else is closed down, and you have a nice clean background and have just the PowerPoint that you want to share, or the Google Slides that you want, or the picture that you want, is so important, because though you have such little time with your students these days that you don't want to be trying to fish through your computer to find things. And then always the students have expectations with them, just like you would in your classroom, about what the expectations of the video call is. If you are willing to do the virtual backgrounds, if you're using Zoom, then excellent, that's an option. If not, then make sure they know that is not allowed. And then just constantly reminding them. When I get on each video call with my students, I just give a quick reminder. It's so good to see you all. I can't wait to start science. We're just a reminder that we're not going to have any virtual backgrounds. You need your real name on for your login, or your parents. And if you have a question or comment, just go ahead and raise your hand in the screen so we can see it. And we're going to sit upright and be ready to go for class. The other thing is that I've experienced so far is having a backup plan. So my first video call when I was doing a plant update for my first graders to show them how the plants are thriving in my apartment and growing, my Zoom call all of a sudden froze and the students couldn't see me. They couldn't see the plants. They could see each other, but they couldn't see anything that I was showing them, which was the whole point of the call, was to see the plants. They could still hear me, so that was interesting. But we had to carry on with the lesson, and I still had to teach them about the plants and what they looked like and ask them inquiry questions without them having the ability to see them. The backup plan that I had for that was then I had a PowerPoint that was already ready to go of pictures of the plants that I was going to put up anyways for the students. So I just referred them to go look at that right after. But I do think it's important, in case there are any tech glitches that come up, to always kind of have that backup plan in your mind, just because you never know what might happen. On that note, also restart your computers often, because if you're like all the teachers at my school, we all have 10,000 tabs open and windows open at a time. And we have learned the hard way that you need to refresh your computer every once in a while and give it a reboot. And then the last thing that I think is important, it's kind of a no-brainer, but a power cord. The worst thing to happen is to have your computer shut down in the middle of teaching online. And also a reminder to the students to make sure their devices are charged as well. And I just wanted to show you the picture that I have here. You might think it looks like I'm getting ready for lunch or dinner, but this was my classroom for my first graders the other day. We were doing grocery store gardening. So I had a PowerPoint ready to go on the back of my screen that had the morning message as well as all of the details of the lesson. But then I also have a little whiteboard that I can write on, that I put up my morning message on that as well, in case I wasn't so sure they were ready for me to share their screen, which it turns out they were not. And we went with the written morning message. So I think it's important just to have different things ready. And then for this one, I also got a little bit creative, because I didn't want them to see all of the vegetables ahead of time. And so then I would take my computer and I moved it onto that zoology book as kind of a platform for them to then see all the fruit down below. So I think the last thing with resources is just stick to what you know. There's a lot of resources out there that people are sharing, a lot of free websites right now, a lot of just, it's a little bit overwhelming. The first week I was actually happy to be on vacation, because with nothing to do, because I could kind of sift through some of those resources. I'm not sure how any of you teachers taught that first week with getting all the resources, which were wonderful. But I would say what's been working best for me so far is just sticking to what I know and sticking to the resources that I've used so far and that I know are good ones, and go to those first, and then reach out to others if you're looking for more. And I think when looking through and sifting through resources that people are sending out, I think it's really important to just keep your learning objective in mind. There's so many things that I've come across that I think, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I would love to do that. My students would love it. But then I have to think it has nothing to do with my curriculum right now and what I want to teach the kids. So I need to stay focused. And then I have a bookmark system where I'm bookmarking those for future use. And then I would say the one thing we're all educators, we love learning, we love teaching. I would push yourself to try one new tool when you're ready for it. Maybe not this week, maybe not next week, but maybe the week after. Just try something new and experiment with it, because you never know what you might find out there that could be useful. And then lastly, I think it's really important for us in these times to stay as connected as we can with colleagues and with friends and with family. So reach out to other educators, reach out to those in your network, and just share ideas, share some challenges, struggles, how you've overcome them. I think that's a really important thing, to make sure that we are all in this together, and we will get through it. And our students are still learning, which is great.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I think what I really liked about what you just said, Lizzie, is stressing again the importance of community. That in whether we're talking about us as a community of educators, us as a community that is by necessity needing to be online, but also for you as an educator in charge of both a classroom and a school community, and having a really important and stressing the importance of all of those. That one of the things that we lose in these times, especially in education, is the ability to really make sure that students know that we're still here for them, and we're able to work with and support them, and finding ways that we can, while still maintaining the importance of instruction, to continually really refocus on the importance of community. That if a student, someone I used to work for once said, you can't teach a child who's sad, sick, or lonely. And I think this is a stressful time. And the more we as educators can emphasize the importance of doing some of the things like you had suggested from your experience of finding ways for the students to engage that may be curricularly relevant, but may not be. I think that those are things that I don't think the importance of them can be overstated. So I'm going to jump into questions in 1 second, but before I do, I do want to just quickly mention on this page, everyone now has access to this, to Lizzie's presentation. They can access it either on the at-home website, athome.reachtheworld.org, or they can go directly to tinyurl.com/RTWPD-5, because this is the 5th PD session we've been lucky enough to host. I do believe we have a few questions that have been coming in. But if anyone has any additional questions, please email myself and Tim. Our email addresses are up on the screen right now. We would love to be able to invite you and welcome you into the community of educators that we've been lucky to work with for the past 20 years and counting, and also share others into that community as well. Tim, do we have any questions?
We've got a lot of really great supportive comments, reiterating a lot of the fantastic points that Lizzie has shared. And I think that the general sense is that we're all sort of coming together around some really incredible best practices. I know the idea of the office hours is something I've seen pop up with my own kids lately, and it's been mentioned by a couple teachers lately, and I feel like that's probably a new thing to a lot of educators, and people are doing it to see how it goes. And Lizzie, I'm just curious, how does that look for you? When you do open office hours, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've only done 2 so far. The first one I did, one student popped in because she had a question about the assignment, and we chatted for about 5 minutes. And then the second student who came, we chatted for 45 minutes, and she didn't really have any questions about the assignments that we were doing or science in general. We talked about Lord of the Rings and the new book that she was reading, which I had a million questions about because I kind of forgot about Lord of the Rings. But it was a great moment because she's a student that I talk to at recess all the time. So it was kind of like our way to connect on kind of not having our recess talks. We could have our office hour talks. The second one that I hosted, I had a couple of students come in, and at that point they had a little bit more work assigned from me. So there were more questions about assignments and just kind of oh, hey, hello, how's it going? How are you doing? And one kid popped in and just said, I saw it on my schedule and I didn't know what it was, so I'm here. So
I love it. It sounds like a great way to give kids exactly what they're looking for, whether it's a connection, interpersonal connection, or some academic support.
Yeah, and I think we have it now for pretty much all of the subjects, and all of the teachers host them, and it definitely is. It's a good space for both involved, students and teachers.
Great. Something you said in your answer reminded me of another question that I've seen pop up quite a bit. as you're trying to sort of establish and maintain a schedule similar as possible to what the kids would do, that involves, some logistics about when you need to get on a Zoom call or when you need to join this or that. How do you manage schedules in your school?
Great question. We have our director of our lower school built this amazing Google site platform. I don't know how he did it, but he has a pretty much a Google document that is a schedule that the parents have access to it, the students have access to it. And right now it's just the same schedule for the week. And then as teachers, we all have access to it, and we go in and post our links to our live sessions. And then we post any other work that we need to post, not on the schedule exactly, but in a different place underneath that. We have some, I think 3rd grade and up is using Google Classroom in our lower school, and 2nd grade and down is not. And so that's a little bit of a different situation of how you get those students their work. But it seemed to be working so far. And what we realized is that we need to have one landing page for the families, one landing page for the students, the parents, everyone involved just needs one landing place. And we're also, since we are using Zoom for our live classes, and we've figured out how to make it so that you can do a recurring meeting, so that once you know that the link works, it is going to work for the rest of the time that we're doing remote learning.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, so we're just about out of time. I wanted to just mention one quick thing and then follow that up with a question. So it was implied in your about, but in addition to being an educator and someone that we all have had the distinct honor and pleasure to work with, you're also an explorer. And so my question for you, Lizzie, is when we have the chance to go out and explore and travel again, where is next for you?
Oh gosh, anywhere I'm allowed to go. That's a great question, Chris. I don't know. I really don't know. I have my list of exciting places I would love to go, but I haven't quite picked one yet. So stay tuned. I would love to. I would like to go to Africa, but I need to do maybe a little bit more planning and narrow that down.
Completely understandable. Well, it was so great to be able to connect with you, Lizzie, and thank you so much for giving us not only your time, but giving us some insight into how you have been doing, making this transition to online learning. In addition to this being live streamed, this will be available on demand as soon as this ends. So for anyone who wants to be able to share this, please share this link out on YouTube. And if you have any questions, again, please email myself or Tim. I'm Chris@reachtheworld.org. Tim is Tim@reachtheworld.org. We would love to be able to help you and your communities however we can. But again, a sincere thank you to you, Lizzie, for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you both. This was really fun. It's great to see you both again and be part of the Reach the World family.
Oh, you're always a part of the Reach the World family now.